by the way, hello, bonsoir tout le monde. Everyone that is out of town, we are in the process of filling out name tags, and I need you to know that you should have gotten in the mail backpacks and yellow tags. Please put those tags on your luggage, especially on your check-on luggage, or the luggage that you check in, and then your carry-on, whatever you have the most important things that if it got lost, you'd want it to be reported and easily found. The code that you need is up here on the blackboard. I'm going to read it to you. If you cannot see it, it's 528/ capital T as in Tom, capital J as in Joe, capital P as in Patrick, / capital C, capital H, capital I, the 3 letters of Chicago. Capital C, capital H, capital I. So that is the trip code that you need for the ACIS tour code that you need for that yellow tag. So hopefully you can rewind this if you need to listen to it again. And we're getting close now. We're probably down to about 55 days. So, and tonight we are getting ready to start on Paris and learn some very interesting things. I'm going to do a fairly quick, I cannot believe we're into April, so we're going to do, I'm going to try and do most of Paris tonight. And usually I spread it over 2 or 3 days. So I'm going to hope everybody, you know, if I miss anything, then I'll carry it over to our next class. Also, I wanted to bring up a couple things. I brought an adapter converter that I had that my son Kerry got for me. I love it. He got it on Amazon. It's called Loop, L-O-O-P, but it covers many countries. I think nowadays, I mean, you see, you just pull it up like that, and you don't have to worry about carrying around. But this one really, you can only plug one thing into. So you might be able, like it says, you can put in, and I usually charge my phone or my iPad in here. It says it'll take note. I don't know, that may be the same size as an iPad, I don't know. They both look exactly the same to me, like you probably could put in 2 here, but I've never tried, because I never took 2 USB cords with me. But I do love this thing, it's very compact. Before that, I used to carry around 2 things, and they were humongous, and I don't have to do that anymore. Also, and these are all the details. I received a letter from ACIS today, and I'm going to forward this so that you can see it. I don't know if you have, if you have caught on the ACIS website, but this is LeGrand, and she is our tour manager over there. She is French. She lives in Spain right now, but she seems very pleasant. I'm going to give you a little. And then I'm going to do this. There, where are you, darling? Oh, come on. I thought it was on this page, but sorry, everybody. Let's see, just go to the, oh, there it is, yeah, there we go. Thank you, you did it. See, it's so, this is my class. Whenever you have a problem, they run up and save you. Okay.
Small village in Champagne, and I moved to Paris to study, and finally decided to live in Barcelona. I've been living there for 12 years and work on the local side. When I'm not touring with ACIS, basically, you might see me trekking or hiking or biking around in the countryside, or just chilling with my son by the beach, eating cheese, the main one. And one basically on the kind of history. So it would be a great pleasure to have you on this tour in order to share all my passion for history and food. It's really something in Europe. So welcome and hope to see you soon.
Now, she seems adorable. And I would, and this is very soft spoken, but if you go on the trip site, on the ACIS trip site, you can pull it up and it's louder. So make sure you look her up. And I will tell you, she said she was from Champagne. She pronounced it the American way. It's Champagne. And you see all these little like puzzle pieces? These are provinces, just like Canada, only it started in France, but just like Canada, they have provinces where we have states. And Champagne is one of those provinces. So here's Champagne. And that is the only province where that they can officially use the term champagne. That is the only place that makes the official champagne, and nobody else can use that label except them, because it's from Champagne, France. And you can see we're going to be in Ile-de-France, which is another province. That's where Paris is, and the environ. And we are going to be in Haute Normandy, which is High Normandy. We're going to be in Basse Normandy, which is Low Normandy, and we're going to be probably dipping into Bretagne, Brittany. I'm not sure if we'll get down into there or not. And so basically, and then down here we will be in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur. So these are the provinces, and then we'll be right about in here, probably Rhône-Alpes. It's really interesting to know that the Alps. Here, you've got the Swiss Alps, but the Alps these are the low Alps down here. It's the very low Alps, and then as you go further north, they get to be the high Alps that you know. And
will we be able to see them?
Well, when you're in Monaco, you remember how Princess Grace was killed?
Right.
Up in the mountain? That's the low Alps.
That's the low
So
Alps.
you will definitely be able to see that, because Monaco, the entire Principality of Monaco is built into a mountain. I mean, it's all of their apartments and everything are built into a mountain. Now, the letter I got from ACIS reminded me, it is very typical for European tours to tip their tour managers and to tip their bus drivers. And this is what they have suggested, and they added it up for me, and it says tip for a 10-day trip. The tour manager she's going to be with us 9 out of the 10 days, and it's usually $6 a day, which would be $54 a person. And the bus driver, 7 days times $4 a day is $28 a person. So if you could add that up, is that 82? Yeah, that's $82. If you could, I don't know what other way to do it. If you can write a check to me, I'm going to have a lady come. Excuse me, I'll get out of your way. And people out of town, if you could write that down and maybe send me a check, and email me, and I'll send you my address. I'd rather not put it on YouTube. But it's much easier to do it here than it is over there. And I'll have it in an envelope, and then you'll see me hand it over to her. Sometimes if you love somebody a lot, then people will chip in at the end and add more. But I would never ask you to do it unless you wanted to. Sometimes they're so darn good that you just love them. And I had
the guy back up that bus in Italy.
Oh yeah, I mean we've had, and some of the bus drivers, oh my gosh, amazing, amazing.
So we make a check out to you in your
I
name?
would make the check out to me because I'm the one that has to cash the money and put it into euros. So you can't give it to ACIS because they won't do it. You'll have to give it to me. And I promise I'm not going to run away with it. I will give the money to the bus drivers and the tour managers. But and then I'm going to try to arrange at one of our final meetings to have someone come in and give us euros to kind of save you a trip. If you don't want to go to get euros yourself, you can buy them here. Do you remember, Peg, if you can write a check for that?
John did. I don't know that.
I don't remember what I
think you
did.
can write a check for it.
I think you
Yeah.
can. Yeah. First paying for the kids.
Yeah, you can? Okay. Yeah. So I have to contact her. In fact, Peg, if you would put that down on my list of things to do, I've got to contact that woman and ask her to
So
come.
how much do you suggest that we cash in for?
I would like, I will be going over probably with a couple $100 worth of euros.
Okay.
And I just don't like going to an ATM. So I like to have with me at least bare minimum what I'm gonna, because you have to pay fees and all of that when you're over there. It's easy to stop at an ATM machine, but I don't like to be in the middle of a day and having to make a special effort to go look for an ATM machine when you're trying to see stuff, you know, and then you gotta take time out of your free time to go try to look for an ATM machine. So certainly bring an ATM card, but I would give myself ample cash, and I will tell you that I will not be carrying all my cash outside. I will carry most of it underneath my clothes. And I have a money belt that I wear under my clothes, and I'll pull out probably €100 and I may bring 300 euros and just have, I might be my own little mini bank. Just, you know, because there's not really that much you have to pay for if you want to buy gifts or whatever. And the thing is, you might not even want to carry that much cash, because if you want to buy something, you can do it with a credit card. They do not take the American Express over there. And if you want to, now you can't buy something with a credit card from a street vendor, and you can find really cool things from street vendors. So that's when you have to have a little cash on you. And you can't buy cool crepes in the Tuileries Gardens with a credit card or check. You gotta have cash. So it's nice to have some cash if you want to have pastries, things like that. You know.
The markets were beautiful.
And the markets are wonderful. Yeah. I mean, of course, flower markets they're gorgeous, but you don't really have a place for it. But in any case, that's the business stuff. Do you guys have any questions on that? And everybody has their tags, and everybody has their bags. Those bags, as I was practicing with them, they if anybody can figure out a better way, they kind of hang backwards, but I think if you fill them up more, they tend to be a little bit more firm. So if you put like puffy things in there that's lightweight, I may put a raincoat in there in case it's raining one day, and maybe an umbrella. You can almost count on rain up north sometime. Maybe a deluge and maybe not, but it's kind of like Chicago up north. And you know, sometimes when it's raining, if it's cool, then make sure you layer. And then when you get down south, it's like the angels come out and the trumpets sing because it's so exciting to see the sun. Okay, now without further ado, let's get moving. And let's go on. I wanted to talk to you. First of all, we are, this is Paris right here. And I'm going to divide it up. Actually, I'm going to erase this section right here because that's not really an area, that's a one-thing destination. Everything I've circled is an area. And in that area, there's more than one thing to see. And sometimes people go to Paris, if you ever go back, they go to Paris and they're frustrated because they tend to want to go to see the Arc de Triomphe, and then they want to go see Notre Dame, but then they want to go back and see the Champs-Élysées, and they go back and forth, they waste their time. And it's a strolling city, but it's also excellent. Now you guys have been there, did you use the subway? And you use the subway, you know, and we're going to work on the subway tonight, so those of you that know how to do it, you can help the people that don't. But this is the section I'm going to start with, and if you can see, Paris is divided in what they call in a great big long word, and it's arrondissement, and it's A-R-R-O-N-D-I-S-S-E-M-E-N-T-S, arrondissement. And those are simply districts, that's all they are. And they kind of go like a snail, where they start one and then go around and then around and around like that. But when you are on a street corner, if you're in the bus and it's idling and you're at a light, or you're walking down waiting for the light to change, and you look and there's a number like this on it, the number 3, for example, and an E on the building, up on the wall. Could be on a plank. It means it's the 3rd arrondissement, which means it's the 3rd district. So when you look at the districts, which we can do, but it shows you what area of Paris you're in. Okay, so we're starting right here. Why? Because that's where Paris basically started. I will tell you, they discovered bones in a certain area of Paris that date back 8,000 years before Christ.
Oh my goodness.
So that's, and the Gallo-Roman area, this was all owned by the Romans. So there are Roman ruins here as well. Now they're not as well preserved in Paris as they are down south, but even what people don't even realize is there was a wall around Paris. And when they talk about, you're on the highway, you don't realize it, but the title is Port, which means door. And you are literally, there are, I think, 4 doors around Paris where when you're driving on the highway, you're driving through where the wall used to be. And so that's called a port, port of entrance. Now, if you take a look at your maps there, okay? Everybody, we should have enough for everybody to have a subway map. They are these little things that are on the table in the middle, no? Okay, here's one for you.
Oh,
There
here.
you go. You guys have enough?
Yeah.
Okay, now I need you to turn onto the side that is the big map. Okay? And as we go through our discussion tonight, and those of you at home, you can look up a map online. Just go up Map of Paris or Plan, P-L-A-N, de Paris, and you want to do it the one that has the monuments on it, so that you can see where some of the monuments are. But I want you to start first. We're going to look at that blue line going down the middle of the map, and that is the River Seine. Okay? If you take a look at the River Seine, everything north of the River Seine is called the right bank. Everything to the south of the River Seine is called the left bank. So when you hear Rive Gauche, you've heard of Rive Gauche perfume. That's the left bank, and that's where they get that term from. And in this particular area, if you take a look right smack dab in the middle of the river, right in the middle of the river, and go to the east, and just until you come to an island. A big island, right in the middle of the water. Yep, it's a big glob right in the middle of the water. And if you look very carefully, there is another little island to the right of that. Can you see those 2 little islands? Yep, you got them right there. You got it? This one and this one, yep. You got it? You guys got it? Okay, now that big island is where Paris, that's where Paris started, that's where the King's Castle was, that's where Paris, the Kings started, that's where the King's Palace started. And what was the reason for having your palace on the island? Protection. It was protection. It was a natural protection because there's a body of water around it, and you couldn't have a direct attack. So this is also the island upon which Notre Dame was built. Notre Dame was built. Now I said they found men's bones 8,000 years before Christ, but like Notre Dame was started in the year 1190, I think. So we're talking a wide expanse of time here, and that took hundreds of years to build. So now we've had the Palais de Justice on that island. On that island, there is a wealth of information, and there are not a million, but there are at least 4 or 5 things that are crucial to see. And you don't always have time to see all of them, but I want you to know that they're available. So now, number 1, let's start with Notre Dame. If you take a look at it, you will see it's got the spires. This is what is called typiquement Gothique. It's typically Gothic architecture. And it's very, very ornate. You can see these, the arches. And also it tells a story. So if you take a look here, and on the side here, these are called flying buttresses. And the cool thing about this, and there's an exercise you can do, I do it with the kids, where they will, you can put kids arms together like that, they're leaning against each other, and somebody can hang on it, and they won't fall down. Because when you put flying buttresses up as a support, that's what allowed them to have those cathedral ceilings. And it was like a brand new method of construction at that time, to have these big vaulted ceilings. And the rose windows, of course. Inside, you'll be surprised, I think. I think the Notre Dame is gorgeous, but on the inside, you realize Gothic architecture was done during the medieval period. All you have to do is watch Hunchback of Notre Dame, and you know what kind of an ambiance there was at that time. It was a very punishing world, and a very dark world, and brimfire and ashes. And so it was very, and the inside of the cathedral, as much as I love it, it's dark, and it's kind of somber inside. And it's very interesting. You'll see people can go to Mass in there. Even during Mass, people are allowed to walk around, and as long as they're quiet and respectful. And along the side, there are lots and lots and lots of altars all the way around. And in the very, very back, there's a cool rendition, a little mini version of Notre Dame and how it was built. And you know, you look back to 1190 and you look at the height of those, and you realize there was no mechanical machinery at that time. This was all done by humans, and the humans were put in like hamster cages, and they had to work these hamster cages like this to get all the huge bricks up and up and up on pulleys up to the top. I mean, you can imagine how many people died. And then there were animals that helped in the labor of it. So this in itself, you could go to the top if you want to. The bells are up there. I mean, it's a lesson all unto itself. And what's very interesting, if you take a look at the portals, and a portal, back to that word port, like door, the portals of these cathedrals, back then people were not educated. So they told stories through their bas-reliefs, through their art, through their sculptures. And so if you take a look at this very closely, now you see this is the Last Judgment here. And this is the central portal from Notre Dame. And let's see if I can, all right, now that's a close-up of this down here. If you look very carefully, what do you see? Over here, you've got the devil. And all these people over here have been condemned to hell. And over here, you've got the archangel, and all these people over here are saints and angels, and they are going to heaven. So if you look at if you look at that a little bit more closely, you can see that it's telling a story. And all the way around here, I mean, it's just very interesting. And the gargoyles are very interesting to look at. And they say some of the gargoyles, I mean, it was done during, you know, the medieval period, so it was to ward off evil spirits. And also they were rain spouts, so they did have a practical use. But I mean, there were some of them. One of them is reputed to have been styled in the face of the mother-in-law that he didn't like. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's one of the stories I've heard from it. Okay, let's go here. Come on. And there's a little plank. So if you're a romantic, this plank, see if you can find it right in front of Notre Dame Cathedral, because they say if you put your feet on it and take a picture of your feet there, then it means you'll go back. And so it's like good luck. And and that is also the 0 point for Paris, where they mark all the mileage points, the kilometers. Okay, kilometer. Come on. Okay. Here's a really good example of the Flying Buttons, okay? And back behind, this is something people don't know. Back behind this cathedral, there's a beautiful park, very peaceful, and then you cross over the street, and there is another little park, and it's kind of gravelly, and there's a gate there. Now, if you are lucky to get there sometime when that gate is open, I think it's been closed recently, maybe due to all the stuff that's been going on worldwide, I don't know. But it is it's called the Deportation Memorial. It is absolutely beautiful, touching, painful. It is a memorial to all the French Jewish people that were deported, and that's the place that they loaded them on the barges when they took them out of Paris to the concentration camps. So it is, even if you can't get down, because there's a light, a flame, an eternal flame down there, and it's got names, and it's very somber and beautiful. Very, very few people know about it. It's not a touristy place. but it takes about 2 minutes. But if you can't go down the stairs, it's even worth it just to look, to realize if you go down to the edge of this island, right down there is where the Jews were loaded onto ships and taken out. I mean, when you're in Paris, when you're in France, you are walking through history. I mean, it just makes it so touching when you realize what people have gone through in their lives. And it makes you so grateful, you know, to have what we have. Okay, now, around the corner, see, on this island, remember the King's Castle is there. Well, now it's called the Palais de Justice, and that's the Palace of Justice. And so now they have their government offices there, but right around the corner, on the side, is where they have something called the conciergerie. It used to be, when it was the King's Castle, you know what a concierge does? They take care of things in the hotel. Well, the concierge was the concierge of the kitchen and the things that help take care of the king. So they had kitchens down in this area over in the corner, and they would have to go up spiral staircases up to the king's level to bring him his food. And it was now, the very interesting thing about it, I'll come back to that, so remember that. And that's right along the river. So I want you to go right now to where find Notre Dame on the island. You see Notre Dame? Okay, now you're going to go to the left of Notre Dame and go over to the north side of the river, along the bank. North side of the river, okay, and go over to the left and see if you can find the conciergerie. It's right on the island still. It's in this area, okay? If you see a yellow star, it's in that area.
Right here.
Okay, now keep that place in mind, because you're going to find the route that they took to take Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI to the guillotine. So you'll learn where the guillotine was set up, and you'll learn the way they got down to the guillotine. And so just keep that conciergerie in mind, because during the French Revolution, it became a prison, okay? And this is where Marie Antoinette was in prison during the French Revolution. And there's a cell in there, and there's a little movie in there. There are cells that are decorated, and there's one devoted where Marie Antoinette stayed. So if you want to go in and give that a visit, it's a quick visit. It's not something that takes all day or anything, but it's worth it to see, I think, if you have enough time. And then if you want to go around the corner, and this is Marie Antoinette's cell. I've seen it look differently. I did not see a person in there the last time. And then we have Sainte-Chapelle. Now this was the king's chapel. So now here you have, imagine this, on the island where that yellow star is. That whole little block area where the yellow star is, and you see a bunch of stuff, that was the Palace of Justice. That's where the king's castle was. That's where the conciergerie was. And then to the left of the Palace of Justice, you have the Sainte-Chapelle. You might be able to see it on the map, but it's right in that little glob on the island.
Beautiful.
And it is all stained glass walls. So now, if you're going in as a tourist, you start on the bottom floor. Now, sometimes people go in and think that that is it, and that is not it. It starts on the bottom floor, and that's where the servants used to go to Mass. And it's a gift store down there, and there are little stars, but you have to go up spiral staircases to the next floor. And the next floor, the king's chambers would be down the hallway, and he would go directly from where he lived down the hall. They would open the big doors, and the king would go to daily Mass in the Sainte-Chapelle. This, on a sunny day, is absolutely the most unbelievable thing you've ever seen it's magnificent. It's all stained glass, and it tells the story of the Old Testament. So it's really quite a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm.
And I think you've seen it down in Quigley. They have a miniature.
I have not seen it, but you've told me about it. I would love to go with you.
In Quigley, the old high school that was for people studying for the priesthood, they have, and I went there for a development meeting once, and they said, oh, come up to the third floor, and I wanted to hurt them. And then, you know, they said, no, it's worth it. It was this old crinkly building, and so we went up there, and I've seen that, and she is telling you the absolute truth. It's magnificent, and the one at Quigley is just so cool that they replicated it here.
Yeah, that's very cool that they did that. And they bring out the crown of thorns on Easter, and they say from time to time they bring it over. And I don't know, I've never been there when they've exposed this, but it's they bring it out also to Notre Dame at certain times of the year, and so that's all on that little island. So now we are back. You look at your map again.
Out of curiosity, what district number is that area in that island?
I would say, you know what? After we're all done, I think this is like the second district, and I think this is the 9th. So this is probably the first. In here, it might be the first or the second. I'll have to look more carefully to be sure, because I don't have the district.
I didn't know if that was something we needed to.
No, you don't need to. I've never really. It would be a nice thing to know. It's written on the maps.
Yeah, well, this is I have a different map, but.
You have a what?
I have a different map.
Okay.
It looks like one, yeah, it's like between 1 and 4.
Yeah, so it's probably the first, I would say probably it's 1 there, because that's probably where the snail starts. But I can't give you that answer for sure. But you know, when we're there, we should look on the side of a building and see what number it says. But very good question, Marcia. Now, if you're looking at your map, I want you to go way up north on your map, and you're going to come to an orange-looking basilica. Right there. And let me show you where it is on the map right here. Up here. Okay? Can anybody see what that is called? That Sacré-Cœur. And Sacré-Cœur, this part right here is the it's the highest natural point in Paris. So it is called actually Montmartre, which means Mountain of the Martyrs. And so when you see this for the first time, you look up and it's straight up. It's pretty magnificent when you see it for the first time. And it's a basilica, not a cathedral. It's a Byzantine architecture with the rounded domes and more of the, you can see there's a different type of an architecture. What would you call these?
Cupolas.
Maybe cupola-like things, with the rounded dome, but it has a Byzantine look to it, and it's a totally different effect than Notre Dame. And if you remember, take a look at this shot. There is a shot, and I'm going to show it to you tonight. There is a shot that I may buy a poster of because I love it so much. You can see that Sacré-Cœur through a beautiful, beautiful, big, huge clock. You can look through that clock in the Musée d'Orsay. You can get the picture of the clock hands, and then you can also see Sacré-Cœur in the distance. And I find it to be such a beautiful thing if you can get a good shot of Sacré-Cœur, because sometimes it's a little cloudy and you can't.
When you're on top of the Arc de Triomphe, you can see it, can't you?
Oh yeah, you can see all these things all over the place.
Even though it's really far.
Yeah. No, they are. Well, they're pretty far from each other, but you'd be shocked. Everywhere you are in Paris, you'll come down a block and you'll look and you'll say, "Oh my gosh, there's the Eiffel Tower," or "Oh my gosh, there's the Arc de Triomphe," and you see it looming in the distance. You know, especially the Eiffel Tower is looming. You know, everywhere. Do yourself a favor. I've mentioned these before. If you want to watch a good rom-com, watch French Kiss or watch Midnight in Paris, because you'll see those monuments all over the place. And this is a very typical black and white picture of these stairs going down in Montmartre. You're looking down or looking up.
Oh, you can see so many
Yeah,
posters.
this is a very famous shot. And
that's at the steps going up to
yeah,
this
that's, yeah,
basilica?
yeah.
Is a basilica smaller than a?
You know, that would be a very good question.
What's the difference?
As I was mentioning it, I was thinking to myself, what is the difference between a cathedral and a basilica? And
Dave's gonna look it up.
Dave, oh yeah, Dave, do we have any answers from all the questions you asked the last time?
No, I don't. I have no idea.
You know what, I actually did look up the water at the Louvre and where they were getting it from, but I never got a succinct answer. I did look, and then after that I gave up. Okay, Mountain of the Martyrs, Montmartre. Sacré-Cœur means Sacred Heart. So that's the Basilica of Sacred Heart. And right around the corner is, they call it, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's the artist area. And there's a specific name for it, and it'll come to me. Oh, this is going to drive me crazy. But in any case, right around the corner is there's a square where all the artists are, and I will tell you that the artists are going to look at you and say, oh, you are so very beautiful. I've never seen anybody as beautiful as you are. You have got pose for me. I will not charge you a suit. Nothing better, I promise you. And then you sit there with them, and they paint you, and then they say, oh, you owe me. And you're like, oh. So be aware. And my daughter-in-law did get hers done, and it's beautiful. It's hanging in their dining room. But my sister and I did this for my mom. We had ours done together, and my sister and I looked very much like we do down to here. And the mouth was like, ooh, what happened? And my mother looked at it and said, I hate that. So that was money well spent. Okay, now you can see this will be you. But this is where, in this area is the Moulin Rouge. Down at the bottom, that's where they, and you know, this is also the area that Van Gogh lived and Gauguin lived. They have a cute, well, I'm not going to fiddle around with that, but they lived, you know, right around the block from each other. And so all these artists that you're going to hear over and over and over again, they were buddies. They hung out together. They drank absinthe together, and they argued about their painting styles. So if you can see, if you want to buy something, I bought a few small oils there, and I could watch them doing it they do caricatures. I mean, and you can bring a pet and have them do that if you want to. Ooh, I think this is good in the future. Okay.
Yeah, he's very on the plane.
Okay, now, I am going through things quickly, you can see, and let me see, where am I going to go next? I'm going to go to the Eiffel Tower, so now it's going to be this area over here. So now watch, we're going to yet another area, and it's this area right over here. And take a look, because this area I find fascinating. And I'm telling you all of this, I'm giving you because your time free is going to be precious, and precious little. There's not a whole lot of time free. And you have to make hay while the sun shines. And if you have something that really strikes your fancy, that's where you need to zero in on it and know and have a plan and what you're going to do if you want to have that free time to good use. So now, here is the Eiffel Tower. We will be going there. We will be going to the Louvre. We will be probably passing by the Arc de Triomphe. Well, we're going to be doing a lot of things. We'll go by the Notre Dame. But there are, like the Conciergerie in Sainte-Chapelle. If you want to do that on your own. And so anyway, we're over here. Here's the Eiffel Tower. It's right next to the river. We will be taking a boat ride on the Seine and going to the Eiffel Tower. And we will have and in this particular area, this is all the military area. So this is, the Eiffel Tower is right here. And then over here is what they call the military, this is the military area, and they call it the Hôtel des Invalides. If you are into military and wars, there's a magnificent World War I and World War II museum here. There's upstairs at Invalides, but this is where, if you want to do a 2-minute tour of the Invalides, you can do it, because this is where Napoleon is buried. So now, keep Napoleon in mind, because Napoleon is one of France's biggest heroes. I mean, they loved Napoleon, and he gave them much of their laws and their codes of honor and all of that. It started with Napoleon, and their etiquette started with Napoleon. And so, in any case, the Invalides is right here, but right across the street from it is one of my favorite museums in the world, and here's the Eiffel Tower, built in 1889 for the French Exposition. Realize, Peg, 1789 is when the French Revolution started. 1889, they built the Eiffel Tower to commemorate 100 years from the start of the French Revolution. And 1989 is when they built the glass pyramids for the Louvre. So that was all celebrating different 100 years from the French Revolution starting. And the French Revolution started, remember, because Louis XIV built Versailles, then Louis XVI ended up supporting the American Revolution. They were bankrupt because of the whole Bourbon family, and Louis lost his life and got guillotined because of it. So it all fits together. And so now here we have this celebration, and the people hated it at the time. So now, we have the Eiffel Tower. I showed you where that is. On the map, you can see where Invalides is. If you walk south from the Eiffel Tower, it's called Hotel des Invalides. And you should see Hotel des Invalides, and you should see the reason they call it Hotel of the Invalids, look for Hotel of the Invalids, Hotel des Invalides. And it's orange. And that is, the reason it is it's a hospital. And be sure to share with each other if you can't find it.
Stayed here. Oh, it was nice.
The reason they call it Hotel of the Invalids is because
So will we be going into Notre Dame and into the Hotel des Invalides with our tour guide?
no, not inside Hotel des Invalides. We'll drive past it, but you won't go inside of it.
With our tour, will we go inside Notre Dame?
You'll probably go inside, but you can't bring a guide inside. They'll probably let you go inside. They'll give you time to go inside, but they won't have a tour guide. There are certain places that you're just not allowed to do that. And but the guide will be able to tell you many things. If you have anything you ask her, she'll be able to tell you all about it. These guides are phenomenal. But across the street from, they call it Hotel des Invalides because it's a hotel that's a hospital for the Invalides, which is the veterans that have been injured during war and battle. So in that particular place, this long building, in the middle of it is a gold dome where Napoleon is buried, but in the hotel are veterans of war and injured people that are there. And then around the whole thing where Napoleon is buried, let's see if I can, darn it, I hope I have a picture of it. I guess not. Well, in Hotel des Invalides, there is a beautiful, I'm going to call it a casket, but it's more than a casket. What do you call it? Sarcophagus maybe, but it's 10 boxes, I think, one inside of another, and the outside is ebony, and it's beautiful, but it's very interesting. When you walk in there, it's a rounded area, and you don't see it at all. You have to walk in, and you get to a railing, and you can put on your, earphones, but you have to literally bend over to look at where the sarcophagus is, and that is an effort to make you bow when you're looking at Napoleon. And then you can also go down the stairs and see and get up closer if you want to see it up closer. And then there's a chapel on the other side, and inside the chapel there are flags from all sorts of different areas of battle where victories were, and they have they're very old flags, and they're like different coats of arms, things like that. So it's very interesting. If that interests you, it's what we're seeing. And across the street I mean, to me, this is a magnificent day, going to the Rodin Museum. I never liked sculpture very much, and then as I started studying art more, and I'm not by any means an artist, but I am an art appreciator, I just fell in love with it. And you're going to find even some of the artists like Degas, who's in the, he's considered an impressionist painter, but he was into musculature. And he did the ballerinas, and he also did the horses, but he was into musculature. So many of these artists also sculpted because they were playing with the medium and trying to figure out what they were painting inside, or to get to the inside of what they were painting. So if you look at that angst there, and I love this garden. When you walk into the Rodin Museum, it's small. It's like a little house, it's a home. It's not little, it's lovely, but it's like your typical aristocratic home. Not a castle, not a king's, but an aristocrat's home. But the gardens, if you walk into the gardens, don't miss the left-hand side. It's the Burghers of Calais. And the Burghers of Calais are just fascinating, and I'll show that to you in the next picture. But this is the thinker. In French, they call it le penseur. And he's up on a pedestal, and he undoubtedly, if we're on the bus, you could drive by and kind of see him through the fence real quickly. But if you go in, it's fun, and he is sitting there. But for an English teacher, a cool thing to know is that the thinker is actually Dante contemplating the gates of hell. So he's like this, contemplating, and across the garden are the gates of hell. And up above, if you look on the top of the gates of hell, is the thinker, a little mini thinker up there. So, Suzanne, do you ever teach Divine Comedy?
Not recently.
Not recently? Because I think that's so cool that Dante is looking at, he's contemplating the gates of hell over there. And so anyway, you can just see the angst in his face. And these are the Burghers of Calais. And then this is the Kiss, which is, it's inside the home. It's a magnificent sculpture, just beautiful, beautiful on the left-hand side. And then these are the Burghers of Calais, who, in exchange for one of the beloved people of the city whose daughter was stolen. This is a story I can remember. It may not be totally accurate, but there was a woman that was kidnapped. In exchange for her, the Burghers of Calais offered their lives. And so they took Calais is a city, and they took them away. So these are all men that are in chains. And the angst and sorrow in their eyes is pretty powerful.
So how close? Oh, this is
right across the street. And there's the Hotel des Invalides. So I flip-flopped them there. But you can see there's a gold dome up at the top. And if you're at Notre Dame, or excuse me, if you're at the Eiffel Tower, you can look and see where that is. All of this walkable. Now, the Rodin Museum and Invalides are right across the street from each other. One's down at the corner. To walk to the Eiffel Tower from there, it's a little bit of a hike, but it's certainly doable if you like to walk. And now, let's see, we've gone here, and we've gone up north, and we've gone here where the Eiffel Tower is, and now I do believe we are going to go, this is the Latin Quarter. So now let me go back and give you an idea where the Latin Quarter is. The Latin Quarter, you see this right here, the island? If you look on your map, right to the south of the island, there's an area, and if you see BD Saint-Michel, the street, BD Saint-Michel, and it runs north and south, it stands for Boulevard Saint-Michel. Do you see that? You see that? Okay, to the right of that is the Latin Quarter. And the Latin Quarter is exactly what it sounds like. And if you go to New Orleans, they have the Latin Quarter there. In France, they call it Le Quartier Latin. But there is where the Sorbonne, the French university, started, and that's where they started education, and they used to speak only Latin there, which is why they call it the Latin Quarter. And the streets are very, very narrow, and it is like a melting pot of restaurants over there. So you can have every kind of food known to man. And you can, a lot of Greek food over there. I mean, Paris is a cosmopolitan city, so it has food of all different kinds. Not just French food, but it has all sorts of things. And I frequently will go in this area and have an omelet, or I'll have a quiche or a crepe. But you can get all different types of things in this area. And also you can get some fondue and some things like that. And you can see how narrow the streets are. And this is the home of the French president, the Élysée Palace. And I want to get to, I'm going ahead now, because I want to go back to your map. And, to the south, if you take your map now and go very far south, and so now we've gone very far north, and now we're going south, and let me see if I can find it. It is not far from Montparnasse. The Tour Montparnasse, it's to the right of the Tour Montparnasse, which is right there. And I will say, I'm not gonna, it may not even be written there, but we're looking for the catacombs. That may be it right there, but it just doesn't say it there. But the catacombs are where they have taken, it's a different kind of catacombs than it was in Rome. The catacombs came from a whole area, and it's bones. It's everybody's bones from this particular area. They had a horrible flood, and they had, all the coffins came out of the ground, and they were floating everywhere, and they dedicated an area. And Mrs. Feltis, I don't know if anybody remembers Mrs. Feltis, but she was a biology teacher. Oh my gosh, for her to go in there, she was like the stereotypical biology teacher. There's the tibia right there. And then, I'm like, and then Joan Kustak and I were down there once, and the lights went out. It was at the end of the day, and we're down there with all these bones, and the lights went out, and we're like, ah! We screamed bloody murder. And they had to be laughing upstairs. I'm sure there were cameras down there. But anyway, if you have the time, there's usually a monster line. I was there in Paris, in the middle of Paris, in the middle of winter. It was freezing cold, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. So that was kind of a bummer. We never got in. And you have to buy your tickets ahead of time. And so now we've gone this whole area right here. This is the Luxembourg Gardens. Over here is the Eiffel Tower and the Invalides and the Rodin. Down in this area is the catacombs. Up here is Sacré-Cœur, and we need to get to this area right here. This is where I'm going to end our tour of Paris. And if you take a look, okay, there's the Arc de Triomphe. Now, if you can envision the top of that arc, there are undoubtedly people up there. You can go, and I just did this in January, there are stairs that you can go. There's spiral stairs that you can walk up and go to the very top of the Arc de Triomphe. You can go to the very top. I love doing this. I did it with my grandkids. And up to the top, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and this was me. I'm coming. And they're looking down. Hurry up, baby. I'm hurrying. And so anyway, but they, you can go all the way up to the top, and if you get up to the top, the thing that is very cool about this, I need you to now go, if you see where the Eiffel Tower is, where the river is, and the Eiffel Tower on the left-hand side, it's on the west side of Paris, go straight north, and you'll run into the the Arc de Triomphe. You see that arch there? Okay, now, look at that arch, and you're going to see that there are 12 avenues that run into that arch. And it is, if you watch European Vacation, and you watched Chevy Chase trying to get out of that circle, that's what it's like there. There are no lanes, there are no laws. It doesn't matter what happens, who hits whom, it doesn't matter. It's 50-50, just be quiet and get away. You know, and they're like maniacs, and you see these little bitty cars and the big trucks, and they're all zipping in front of each other. And motorcycles. They're crazy. By the way, is anybody a Harley fan? Because there's a Harley shop, and you can get a Paris Harley t-shirt, which I have a relative that wanted one.
I was going to say, where is this?
It's right, it's by the Arc de Triomphe. That's why I was remembering. Yeah, if anybody likes Harleys, that would be a great gift. But the Arc de Triomphe has those 12 avenues, and that's why one of the things they call it is the Place de l'Étoile, which means square of the star, because those 12 avenues are like a star. And so they call it the Place de l'Étoile, but they also call it Charles de Gaulle. Okay, it's Place Charles de Gaulle. And if you take a look at it, that is a humongous subway stop right there. And it also is a train stop. But if you now take that street, and you are going to be going down the most famous street probably in the world. It's called the Champs-Élysées. And at the beginning of the night, I was playing the music to Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées, da 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 da. Oh, Champs-Élysées, da 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 da. Le matin, après-midi, dans l'après-midi, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful avenue. And if you go straight down, take your finger and walk down that Champs-Élysées with me. And I want you to realize, as you're walking down that Champs-Élysées, that is the street that they took Napoleon down for his funeral to get over to the Invalides under the dome. They created the Invalides for his body when he came back home from being exiled. That is the street down which the Nazis took over Paris. When they walk down the street where Hitler is leading everyone, that is the street they end the Tour de France, the bicycle race. That is the street that they always have a French president's funeral cortege. That is the street that they always have their 4th of July is July 14th. So that is their Bastille Day. And so that is a very, very important street. And it takes you straight down to the Obelisk, and you can see all these things that took place on the Champs-Élysées, and it takes you down to the Obelisk. Now, remember at the beginning of the night how I told you, go back to the conciergerie on the island, and keep your finger on the Obelisk. Because did you find the Obelisk? Okay? The Obelisk is, if you keep walking down the Champs-Élysées, you're going to run into a tall needle. It looks like a mini Washington Monument. But you can't go up. Did everybody find it?
Yeah.
Okay, how about you guys? You okay? Yeah. Okay, so now, if you can envision the thousands and thousands of people jeering along the sidewalks, and Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI. Louis XVI's collar has been torn off, and his hair has been cut, because now he's like this in a tendril, and they're bringing him in a cart along the River Seine, and thousands of people are swearing and jeering and spitting at him as they take him along the Seine, and they bring him down to that square where the Obelisk is. That square used to be called the Place of the Revolution, the Square of the Revolution, and that's where the guillotine was set up, and that's where history was made. I mean, when you kill a king and a queen, that's pretty big time. I mean, that's a big move to do that. And so if you can get a picture of that history that went right along that river down to that square, that's where it all happened. So I wanted you to get that visual. And then later on, now it's called Place de la Concorde. Think of Concord jelly. And that needle was given to Paris by Egypt. And there are hieroglyphics along the side. And it's the beginning also to the Tuileries Gardens. So now, you can see right across the river, this is a city I could talk out of tonight. But I don't want to overdo it either, because I've talked a lot tonight. And I have games and I have stuff, but it's, I want to make sure you're able to listen to me. Are you able to go on for 20 more minutes, or are you ready to close up shop? Because we can close up shop if you're tired. I'm serious, because I've got 80 million things I can do. And I know you're tired, I can see it, and you've got to get up, you've got a meeting tomorrow morning at 6:45.
Who cares about her?
Who cares about her? Well, I know you're tired too, but if you're there where the Obelisk is, across the street, that is the beginning of the Tuileries Gardens. A beautiful, beautiful gardens. And on the corner is what is called, right there next to the river, is something called the Orangerie. That's where the Monet Museum, where the lilies are, where the water lilies are. And is it called the Orangerie there? Yeah. Okay, that's Monet's, that is a little tiny, very intimate museum created for the Monet exhibit. And it's got beautiful, ceiling that opens the light, etc. And also, as you go through, you can walk through the gardens if you want to. Some of my favorite things to do. But also across, this is the picture I was telling you. Across the bridge is the Musée d'Orsay. Across the bridge and down a little bit, there is a big train station that they've converted into a magnificent art museum. And on the top floor is all the Impressionist art. You'll see a lot of you'll see the Degas, and you'll see the Gauguins, and you'll see the Renoirs, and you'll see the Manets, and you'll see the Monets. And so if you're interested, and it also combines, in the Louvre, you're going to see a lot of classical, and everybody has to go to the Louvre. I mean, you don't want to go to Paris and not go to the Louvre. But you're going to see a lot of classical art there that's magnificent. But it's Renaissance. And then when you get into the Impressionists, we have a whole different museum for the Impressionist
Where's this
art.
one on the map here?
That's right. You see where the Orangerie is? Cross over the river. Okay,
the other
cross
way,
over the
okay.
river and go down to the right. And you're going to come across the Musée d'Orsay. It's O-R-S-A-Y. Is there a star on it? Yeah, and it's a train station, but it is now it's a beautiful, beautiful museum. And this clock is in that train station, but that is now an art museum. And you see Sacré-Cœur? Remember how we went way up north? Well, that's Sacré-Cœur up there, and you can take a shot right through that clock. For some reason, I find that to be a very, very artistic shot. I just love it. And then here's the Tuileries Gardens, and you can get nice little cups in there. You can get, sometimes you can even pick up good hot chocolate there that is the same hot chocolate that you get on the Rivoli. And here is the glass pyramid, and it was done in 1989 to commemorate the French Revolution. This was done by an American Japanese person named E.M. Pei. Okay, but there's a secret way to get into the Louvre. You never want to go. I mean, there are ways to avoid. You can't avoid some of the crowds, but there are ways to avoid some of the crowd. And so there are these little side entrances that you can kind of sneak into, which is kind of cool. And now you can see. What I wanted to point out poetically. Here we have. This is now. If you're at the Louvre, you're going to see a little mini Arc de Triomphe. On top of that, it's called the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel. So now go down through the Tuileries Gardens. Go back to the Obelisk if you need, and then go through that green patch. Now go to the right and go through all that. You're going to go through the gardens, and you're going to run into a palace. That's the Louvre, and you should see the glass pyramids there. Well, yeah. And that is where the Louvre is. Now, if you take a look, there is a little, it should say there it is. It should say Arc de Triomphe du Carousel. It looks like a carousel. Now, that is an Arc of Triumph right there. That was the original one. Then Napoleon had the other big Arc de Triomphe created on the Champs-Élysées. And then, back to 1989, that 200-year commemoration, not only were the glass pyramids made, but a brand new, very contemporary arch was made out here in La Défense. So it's a huge, very streamlined arch. And the whole poetic idea behind it was going from the past to the future. And so it's from antiquity to modernity. And I just love that image. So you have a good idea, and you can find where that arch, follow your finger all the way back down to the arch at the end, and then follow it all the way out, and you'll find a modern arch. Keep going down all the way down the Champs-Élysées, there's one, and then I'm not sure out there, I think it's in a blow-up picture over to the side. If it says La Défense, here's La Défense right there. There's a big, huge contemporary arch out there.
So, last question. Is Moulin Rouge, anything to see?
It is, again, it's in an area, it's not a bad thing to see, but it's not, I don't know that I would,
What is it? Is it
because a lot of times it's closed during the day. If you want to go to a show, usually, truly it's in an area that's, during the daytime is not, it's not bad, but it's kind of a seedy neighborhood. And at nighttime, usually when you go to a show, you take a bus.
Is it one of those old-fashioned shows?
Yeah. They do the can. They have but there are places, I mean, they have different shows, like Janet Jackson sang there, performed there. So, I mean, they have performers that come in, but there are different places, you'd have to Google it, because I've seen the Follies, you know, Follies Bergère, and I've seen the can dancers and all of that, and it was kind of fun. You know, it was an experience that I enjoyed. So.
We're not going there.
No, pardon?
Where is that?
Where is the Moulin Rouge is right up north. You see where the Sacré-Cœur is?
Yes.
Okay, go to the left of the Sacré-Cœur up north,
Okay.
and see that's the high point. If you go down to the, I don't know that they have it actually marked here.
It's marked on the
Yeah.
It is? Yeah, it's right in that vicinity, but it's at the bottom of the hill. And it's at a subway stop called Blanche.
Okay, where's the on our website? There it is. Okay, here's the one that's right off this road right here. This kind of, where these two meet. Just got on whatever this is. Between the Avenue, Saint.
You should watch the movie Moulin Rouge, just to get a mood.
Do you know where our hotel will be?
Not yet, I'm waiting for it though, yeah. That's, as soon as I find out, I'll, yeah.
It does here.
But I do know, I know the tour manager and I know the flight, so they come in bit by bit, and probably won't know the hotels until right beforehand. In any case, now here's the floor plan. They redid the Louvre, and it's beautiful, but it's got 3 wings. And for you to be able, you have to kind of focus on what you want to see, because it's so much, you could spend days there. You need to know, like, if you want to see the Winged Victory, you need to know what wing it's in. If you want to see the Mona Lisa, you need to know what wing it's in. Certainly there are things that I'm going to show to you that are well worth it. I will stop at 8 o'clock on the dot. How's that? Okay. So here are the wings of the Louvre, and
I can't remember. Are we going in it on our?
you're going to be given tickets to get in it.
Are we going are we gonna have a tour guide with us?
Not along the way. If you want to get headphones, you can do that. You don't really hear tour guides going through the Louvre very much at all. The tour guide will answer any questions that you have, but she's not going to lead us around like that.
Okay.
You'll be. If you want to, I would get headphones though.
It's pretty overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, yeah. I mean, and people kind of skirt all over the place. It gets crowded and it's almost impossible.
Dave and I were there a long time ago, and we went in one of those side doors that you're talking about,
Yeah.
by the stage, and we saw the Mona Lisa, we saw everything
Yeah.
right there.
Wow.
We were there like 20 minutes. and
Wow,
We saw everything we needed.
Yeah.
But now I would like more time.
Sure. And I hope you do get more time. I hope you search out the Coronation of Napoleon, because you will have seen it at Versailles.
Right.
And I'd like you to be able to see the other one at the Louvre. By the way, the goddess, this is the Victoire de Saint-Place, and this is the Winged Victory, and she's the goddess of Nike, and so there we have, she's wearing those tennis shoes. I swear to God that she wears those tennis shoes. It's just, okay, here's the Coronation of Napoleon, and as you can see, there's Josephine and Napoleon. It's the same portrait except for the difference in the dress. This one I love. This is Liberté by Delacroix, and Delacroix is a wonderful, wonderful artist, and this is in the Dunham wing. And one of the most interesting things about it, this museum is not far from where Victor Hugo used to live. And so imagine Victor Hugo strolling through the streets. He would go to the Louvre almost every day, and he loved this painting. And that little boy to the right that painting is what inspired him to have Gavroche in the novel Les Miserables. And so that little guy was the Gavroche. And Liberté, you can see the French flag there, and Liberty leading the people. And she, to this day, leads the people. This is the Mona Lisa. That's in the Danone wing as well. And you can follow signs. The signs may say Mona Lisa, but they also may say La Joconde. La Joconde is what the French call it, the Mona Lisa. Yep, you may see one or the other.
Is that the translation?
Mona Lisa? La Joconde. Mona Lisa means my Lisa. So the La Joconde, I don't know.
What does that mean?
You know what? I don't know if it has a translation. I would have to look it up because, in fact, that would be a good. I'll look that up before I leave. The Raft of the Medusa, and this is a pretty powerful one because out of all those people, only about 15 remained alive. And then they ended up. They were on a big. This is a big raft, and there were like lots and lots and lots of people on this big raft, and they ended up, having a little cannibalism to stay alive, and a lot of them, most of them died. 15 survived. But when you go through this museum, the pain and the sorrow and the agony that you see in some of these pictures, and see how dark they are. Oh, oopsie, I missed you. Oh, Venus de Milo, and again, here's the Winged Victory. Venus de Milo is beautiful, and these are, from before Christ. These are absolutely beautiful, and they found them without the limbs, they rather than adding something fake onto it, they kept it just exactly the way they found it. Oh, by the way, something very interesting. You know how I was talking to you about the Notre Dame, the front of Notre Dame? Be sure and look, when you're standing in front of Notre Dame, you're going to see kings up above the portals. There are this big line of kings. Now, during the French Revolution, when the people were angry with anything that had anything to do with royalty and kings, they crawled up there and lopped off all their heads. And they thought that they were the kings of France, but they were the kings of Israel. So they were not the kings that they wanted to kill. And they found those heads years and years and years later. And those heads are now exposed in the Cluny Museum. So they kept the ones that they replaced them with, but then they put the original heads over in the Cluny.
Now, the Venus de Milo, is that something that was found? You said the Greeks were in France. Is that something that was found in France?
I don't know if it was found in. I can't answer that. That's a good question. I doubt that it was found in France, but I don't know. It might have been. Peg, can you write down a couple things for me? Would you add it? I want to look up and see if I can find out where they actually found Venus de Milo. Okay, and the Winged Victory, Victoire de Saint-Place. And also, what was the other question somebody else asked me?
I asked you one. I don't remember.
You don't remember the question? Okay.
I will.
Yeah. So now, here we've done it, you guys. We've had the area of the island. We've gone down where the Invalides is and the Rodin Museum. We've gone over to the Eiffel Tower, the Invalides, the Invalides and the Rodin Museum over here. And we've gone with the Arc de Triomphe and the Champs-Élysées, the Obélisque, and down, here's the Louvre right there. So almost to the Louvre. So we've gone through all those different sections.
Rick Steve's got us the answer.
Good.
The Venus de Milo was discovered in 1820 on the Greek island of Milos.
Oh, you know what? I remember that now. Yeah, a Greek island. And there are lots of Greek islands. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for looking that up. Thank you, Rick, too. Okay, now, here we go. I'm going to save this. I'm not going to teach you anything about the subway tonight. But what I am going to do is, I'm going to end with this. And let's see. Okay. All right, here we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, 1 point each. You can work together with your table, and I will not humiliate you too badly. All right, now, for 1 point, no, for 10 points. I would like you to tell me 10 things you want to see in Paris, or you can't see in Paris. You can write them down, or you can't look at your map, that's cheating. I'm looking at that, she's cheating. This has got to be coming out of your brain.
Yeah.
Okay, give me one. Eiffel Tower. Okay, give me two. The Veterans Hospital. Okay, that's Hotel des Invalides. Hotel des Invalides, huh? The Louvre. Sacré-Cœur.
Saint-Chapelle.
Saint-Chapelle. The Arc de Triomphe. The what? The Garden. The Tuileries Garden. Oh, the Orangery. The Orangery. The oranges. Orangery. The Rodin Museum. Excellent.
Musée d'Orsay.
Musée d'Orsay. We need one more, people.
Catacombs.
Can we see the catacombs? You got it.
How about
You win.
Moulin Rouge?
The Moulin Rouge.
This for you.
Oh, okay, now, here we go. Where do you go to see the Tombeau du Soldat Inconnu? I did not tell you
That was
this.
that long.
This is going to have to come from your deep, vast knowledge. I bet you Don can tell me this. Where would the tomb of the unknown soldier be? Where would there be an eternal flame going?
At the cemetery?
It's not in the cemetery.
Yes, Holocaust, where they were,
Oh, well, you're absolutely, that, it does have an eternal flame there, but there's another one underneath. I'm gonna give you an idea. It's underneath,
Where Napoleon's buried.
it's not where Napoleon is buried, no, but there is a tomb of an unknown soldier buried there.
The gardens where the
I'm gonna give you a symbol.
Arch de Triomphe.
You got it! You win! This is the thing, if you're going to see, you wanna go up to the top of the Arc de Triomphe, I can tell you do. You wanna climb those stairs. You're gonna wanna get over there, because it's on a square. And remember, I told you there's a street going around it, and it's insanity. So if you attempt to cross that street to get over there, you're going to be killed. And so we do not want you killed, not that rapidly at least. And so now there is a tunnel that goes under the street. So you go down the stairs, go under the tunnel, and it takes you miraculously over to the Arc de Triomphe. And the Arc de Triomphe has a tomb of the unknown soldier there. And that has an eternal flame. And whenever the Queen of England comes, she always goes there and lays a wreath. And very frequently there are flowers that are there by some dignitary. And usually if someone from another country is visiting Paris along the Champs-Élysées, you will see the flag of the country that's visiting. Okay, so now there was something extra you learned that I didn't teach you. Name where Napoleon was crowned emperor. That's a hard one. Where was he crowned and where is he buried? That's two answers.
wasn't there one picture like in Rome or in one of the, like Versailles or something?
Yes.
There's a picture of it.
There are two pictures of the same place.
One's in Versailles.
It's not at Versailles.
No,
Where was
the picture, the picture.
Where was the coronation of Napoleon?
Notre Dame?
Notre Dame. You got it. So that's 1 point. Where's Napoleon buried? Oh, down des Invalides. That's exactly right. Good. Okay, what happened on Place de la Concorde? That would be called the guillotine. And the guillotine was named after Dr. Guillotine. Okay, that was a more humane way of killing people. Name 3 things which take place or have taken place on the Champs-Élysées. The Nazis took over
Tour de
Paris.
France finish.
The Tour de France.
Coming home and looking outside.
The death.
I didn't understand a word anybody said. The death.
We're all funeral procession.
The death march, the funeral. And what did you say, Kevin?
I said when Napoleon came back.
Oh, yeah.
Victory.
Yes.
Victory march.
Okay, let's see if I have any little, one more. Where and when did Paris start?
This tiny little island.
Okay, that's where the kings actually started, but they found, well, see, it was attacked by a tribe called the Parisi tribe. So, and that was many, many, many years before the kings started. The kings started on the island, but there were people that were discovered how many years before Christ?
8,000
years before Christ. So
That
there you
wasn't there, where was that?
that was in a section of Paris. It's like a remote area, and I can look up. It gave the name of the street and stuff, but I didn't look up where it's actually located there.
No, nothing to really
No,
see.
no. But in any case, there you have it. I'm done. I'm not going to give you any more. I filled your brains with an awful lot of stuff tonight, but hopefully you understand the city of Paris a little bit better. And I will teach you how to use the subway. But then next time we will probably be talking about Provence and going down south. So, and then after that, we'll talk about Monaco, and then we have a party. And yes. We have scheduled a party before we leave. However, I am having a conflict on the date, and I'm hoping it won't be too much of a bother if we can change the date and leave and have the party on the 24th
It's
of May.
1 week later,
1 week later.
from Friday the 17th to Friday the 24th.
It's a Friday?
Yeah.
Who did? Graduation?
Right, wait, that Friday, that's
On
the day
Friday?
after our last final.
Graduation.
I have no idea. Yeah.
It's
How
Monday
about,
week.
can you get back to me on that? Okay.
Yeah,
Tuesday,
Tuesday the 28th.
Which is hard, yeah. When was the party originally scheduled?
17th.
I was not.
If you could all put 24th on your calendars and who has graduation? Well, she's not sure. She's got to
Oh,
check.
okay.
Yeah. And then the week before that, who can't come to that one?
No.
Okay. I can't come to that one. That would be not good. So in any case, hopefully, and you can turn the camera off, Don. Thank you. Au revoir. Merci. Bye bye.
We could do